Good afternoon. I hope you guys are having a great summer. Today's the day after the 4th of July, so we're home. My little dog, she hurt her leg, so she's got to have surgery next Tuesday, so we haven't been able to go anywhere. But she's getting up there, so we're hoping she'll do okay. But I'm glad to be here with you guys and hope you've had a great 4th and a safe holiday. So, um, Karen let me know, or Miss Avy let me know that you guys had some questions, so I have those here, and I'm going to try to answer those as best I can. And if you have any additional questions, just let her know, and she can send those to me, and I'll try to follow up. So I'll just go ahead and jump in, so I don't take too long. I know you guys have other things to do. So the first question I have from one of you is: does Ben now understand everything that his family has done for him while he was younger? I would have to say yes, he does. Um, he has a pretty good understanding. He has a good memory. He has a good memory of what it was like growing up, and some of the challenges that we had. Sometimes when we have conversations, the things that he has remembered, surprising to me. But he has a really sharp memory, so he does recall some of those events. And then he's also read the book. He's read my book, and has a really clear understanding of how that was, and has expressed gratitude for that. So that makes me feel good. Um, I know it was a lot. He's worked very hard his entire career, and he's very worthy of what he's received, how he's come along. He's gotten his master's degree most recently, so he's been a hard worker and continues to be, and he's very grateful. He's also very good at teaching, and so he has a good understanding from the teaching he's done as an adult, what goes into that process, and how much it took to teach us, because he's currently working with children with disabilities and dyslexia giftedness, and he's using some of the same strategies that we used when we taught him. So that's a very good understanding, I think, of what happened when he grew up. The second question is: what are some of the challenges you faced with Ben as a teenager? Did you find that it was easier to work with him when he was older? Um, that's a good question. So as a teenager, it was different because he ended up. Well, you don't know this because it wasn't in the book, but he ended up skipping 2 full grades. So he skipped most of middle school. So he skipped from fifth grade to seventh grade, and then went into high school as an 11-year-old. So that presented a different aspect of his high school years. So he graduated at 15 and then went on to college. So I think his teenage years were probably easier than it was with my older two. We didn't have as many of the social nuances that you have. He was so involved in his academics that we didn't have as many challenges in that regard. He wasn't as concerned with his appearance socially, or having the newest cell phone, or getting a car. All of those things came later for him. So we really didn't have that many challenges as a teenager, other than the transition to college. He was very well prepared academically. I would say emotionally, he was also prepared. It just took him a while to adjust to the new environment. And it wasn't negative. He went on, started classes with everyone else, but being so much younger. So he's always been in a different place than other kids his age. And that's actually to his preference. He prefers to be around people who are older and more in tune with his intellectual level. So he doesn't really interact a lot with kids his age. And so that's been a little bit different. And working with him now that he was older, now Ben is 25. Um, and it has gotten a lot easier. Sorry, my cat's meowing outside the door. Um, it's gotten a lot easier in the sense that he gains awareness of things that he should be doing as an adult, and then once he becomes aware, he will take steps to do those things, or learn how to behave more appropriately in whatever setting. So, like a work scenario, they had a potluck or something, and I'm like, "What are you gonna bring?" He said, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, you should bring something. Everyone in the office should bring something." So, just those little things that we learn as we're getting older and moving into the workforce. He's had to learn a little more explicitly, rather than just kind of picking up on the social cue. I have to let him know, Ben, you need to do something in this situation. So the next question is: what are some of the challenges Ben still faces today? Um, he's doing really well in every other way. He manages his money very well. As far as challenges, um, expanding his peer group continues to be a challenge. I would say he has a lot of peers of all ages that he likes to interact with. I would say the biggest challenge in maintaining that is remembering that you need to maintain that. So, a lot of reciprocity is required in a relationship, whether it be friendship or any other type of relationship. And he tends to, if he's not with someone at the time, forget to interact. It's like, have you checked in on your friend Sean? No, I haven't. Haven't seen him, haven't talked to him. I'm like, well, you can send him a text. So that's probably one of the bigger challenges in helping him understand the importance of networking, not just in a business sense, but networking and maintaining those contacts as you move through life, because they're important instead of just interacting with the people in front of you at the moment. So I'd say that's probably one of the bigger challenges. Um, the next question is, how is Ben doing in life and what does he have going on? So he has a lot going on. As I mentioned, he finished his master's degree this past year. He was considering being on track for his PhD. We'll probably go back to that. But with a lot of changes in this administration and what he's wanting to do, he was wanting to work in the area of research in mathematics, and that's been a little tenuous in some places and some universities. So he's taken a pause. He's teaching. He teaches STEM courses, so mostly advanced mathematics, chemistry. He's teaching zoology, and he also teaches some foreign languages at a school here. He's thinking of moving to Atlanta, which is where he went to grad school, and continuing teaching there. And he may go on and get a PhD in education instead of mathematics. His master's is in mathematics statistics. I can't even say that. And he has a minor in music. He continues to enjoy playing music and combining his knowledge of music and mathematics in interesting ways. He likes to do research on music theory, which is very different. He takes a lot of joy in his day-to-day job as a teacher. His interactions with students, some of the roadblocks or challenges that they have in learning, and a lot of times he will ask me my advice on how to handle a situation. The school he's currently teaching, where he is teaching, is near my work, where I'm working as a hygienist still, which is one of the other questions. So now we carpool every day, which is really funny because he went away to Connecticut for his undergrad. So he was there 4 years and then down to Atlanta for 2 years for his grad school, left home early. So he's back here for a little while, and I'm really glad he's here. I feel like he was stolen from me for a little bit, prematurely for sure. And so I was very glad to have him back home, and we ride to work and ride home from work and sit in Nashville traffic together and have lots of good conversations, mostly about his job. He'll talk to me about, especially about victories that he and students have experienced together on projects or things they've created together, or obstacles those students have overcome. And that really makes me feel good, knowing what all he's gone through to get where he is today. It really does. The next question is, been living independently or still living at home? So he is here temporarily. All of his stuff, like most college students, is piled in my upstairs in my storage area, still in boxes, because he plans to move on to decide if he wants to go to grad school. Probably will be in Atlanta, and so he's able to live independently. Pay his bills. Like I said, he's excellent with that. It's just some of the smaller problem solving issues. I know when he was in grad school, I got a text message from him, and he said, I think the landlord turned on all the utilities, but I think they forgot to turn on all the hot water. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so apparently he took a shower. He took a long shower. And then one of his roommates wanted to take a shower, and there was no hot water. And so he thought that they had not turned on all the hot water. And I was like, well, no, Ben, our house has a tankless hot water heater, which means it's never-ending hot water. The hot water doesn't run out. So that's just a life experience he's never experienced before. Or when he lived in the dorm and there was a boiler room, they didn't run out of hot water. So this was an interesting little thing that you just don't expect. You don't expect questions like that, but they're things you live and learn. So, and he's not hesitant to ask me, just flat out ask me. So that's really one of the more interesting challenges. It's the little things. It's always the little things. Next question is, but does he have a job and does he go to college? Yes, we talked about that. He does have a job, and he taught all through grad school. He taught college level statistics and other math courses to college students, and very much love that too. There's so many things he could do and that he's qualified to do, but his passion seems to gravitate back toward teaching, every time. The next question is, does Ben have trouble making friends? Ben's very gregarious and likes to interact with people, but he has a hard time maintaining, like I said earlier. If someone reaches out to him, for him to reach back out and start a conversation. If someone approaches him and wants to interact, he's very open to that. He does like to go to like trivia night, and actually he was doing karaoke here. He was the whatever you call it. He led the karaoke night for several months here in Nashville at one of the local establishments, just because he loves interacting with people extemporaneously. He doesn't mind getting on stage and playing something on the piano and singing. He's very much a vocalist, loves doing that. Great on stage. He likes doing that. So he's much better in person on stage than he is one on one. He can talk extensively with you about any topic. But then just following up or maintaining. And so if people reach out to him, he will always reach back out to them, but just initiating that is still a challenge. The next question, have Ben's intellectual talents shown through as an adult? And what is he pursuing for as a career? Definitely his intellectual talents have continued. They really haven't slowed down. I remember when he was in, I think, second grade, the head of the school where he was going at that time was telling me, and we were talking about acceleration, whether we should skip, whether we should just continue to give advanced work. And they said, well, I think he'll plateau by the time he reaches fourth grade. He's just experiencing rapid neurological development. And at this time, I really don't see him continuing to increase his intellectual prowess at the same rate. But he actually has. So he continues, if he's not being challenged or given enough to keep him busy and growing and learning, he's learned to seek it out. So, and he's learned how to seek it out from good sources. So that's good. And he knows what's a valid source and what's not a valid source. So that's very helpful. The next question is, how do you feel treatment would be different today versus at the time of Ben's diagnosis? That's a good question. I think if we were living in the same place we were living when I wrote the book, I really don't think it would be different, because there just aren't resources and people there aren't getting the intervention they need. What they're getting is a small amount through the school district, and then a very, very, very small amount through the state level early intervention system, and they are very understaffed, always have been and continue to be. So I don't think things would be very different. What I hear from other families in Eastern Kentucky now is they're receiving similar services that we were able to access, which clearly were not enough, and we had to do things ourselves. So I think it would be very similar. Had I been starting a behavior analysis program at home with him like I did, that probably would have looked differently. ABA, or applied behavior analysis, has changed over the years. We did not implement punishment procedures with him, but we also, there weren't as many generalization type skill modules for us to work on, even though I worked on them myself intuitively, knowing that, okay, if he learns something one-on-one with me, he's going to have to learn it, how to replicate that out in the community. And so I did that, but I think I would have been more systematic about generalizing things, so we didn't have any, move forward, fall back, move forward, fall back, because that's something that has become more well known nowadays, that you have to be very intentional about that and start those procedures earlier. So, I ran a nonprofit for 10 years, our Early Intervention Center for Autism, and that was a very integral part of our programming. We had the one-on-one teaching like we did with Ben, and then we also had an incidental teaching classroom upstairs for when they mastered a skill in a one-on-one setting, we would carry that over to a simulated preschool classroom, so we could see if they were actually able to demonstrate that skill in that setting as well. So that would have been a little different if we had been doing that today. But if we'd been in Eastern Kentucky, probably wouldn't have been close to the same. If we had been somewhere more populated with more resources, it would have been quite different. Um, More and more people are understanding that it does take an enormous number of hours to reach the outcomes that you're hoping your child will achieve, because people with autism don't naturally imitate, and so that's where the fall in learning comes from. They're not imitating the mannerisms or the vocabulary or any of the other things that are going on around them, so you have to make that intentional time for teaching. So that's one of the bigger challenges. The next question is, do you feel the options available today would have led to better overall experiences in terms of healing? Um, I think the options available today are finally catching up to what was implemented with Ben. We don't see it quite as clearly with everyone working together from the same plan as we did with our program at home. So I really don't feel like the options available today. It still would have been largely dependent on me as a parent to fully immerse myself in his programming and the entire family into his program. That's the key to making a successful intervention program. So I don't necessarily feel like the options available today. There are more options, but I think the options that we implemented were the ones that were right for him at the time. The next question is Julie still working as a dental hygienist? Good question. So, like I said before, I wrote the book, and I was working in dentistry here in Franklin, Tennessee, at a spa type dental office here, and a patient had requested my book, and that's kind of how that all came out. As far as me starting an early intervention center for autism, that person went on to asked me to work with them and their family, and I did that. And after 2 years, they had asked if I could start a nonprofit, and they gave me the seed money to be able to do that. So I did that for 10 years. I did retire from hygiene for the most part. Was still doing trainings for dental professionals regarding autism during that time until 2017, and that's when I had breast cancer. And when I got back on my feet, then we had the pandemic. So here we are. So we were able to, in that 10-year span, train over 6,000 interns, treat several hundred children with autism and their families. And especially, I think the biggest thing is getting all of those interns out into the community and working with this population. So I as hard as it was to end those things, I know that we did a lot of good, and we also had maxed out what we could do in our space. So a very big switch. And then I went back into dentistry in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic. So that was fun. And the challenging or the interesting thing is that I started out working at one office, one of the first ones I interviewed with that seemed to be a good fit, and then turned around, and the office I had worked at originally when I moved here 20 years ago called me and asked me if I wanted to interview, and I said I used to work there. I was working there when the building was built, and they were like, "Oh, there was no one there that was from the start." So I'm back where I started here in Franklin, and I still see some of the patients. They'll come in and they're like, "Oh, I saw you last in 2004." It's crazy. So yes, I'm still practicing there, and it's interesting because I do see all the patients who are on the spectrum or have any type of developmental disability, or elderly patients who have challenges or disabilities. I treat all of those patients and help our staff work with them as well when they move on to restorative or other parts of our office. So yes, I'm still doing that. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to do that. I am 54. I've been hygienist for 31 years now. I had that little gap in the middle as far as practice. So I think that's how I'm able to continue without too much issue. I have some arthritis in my neck and things like that, but I'm still moving along. The next question is, are you still speaking publicly as an advocate for autism? Yes, I am. So if I have patients I've interacted with who need help with their IEP, they will ask me questions, and I've helped them with that. I've also continued to serve on the Governor's Council here in Tennessee, a Governor's Council for Autism, and the Spark Advisory Board, which is a national project working on genetic studies regarding autism. And one of the bigger things that I'm doing now is one of the online continuing education services for dentistry. I'm sure y'all become very familiar with them. There's a few of them, but one's called ACEs. Most people with a license have taken a course or two through them. You can do a webinar, which counts as a live class. So I do their autism module, which I developed, and I do that once a month on the first Sunday of the month. So I'll be doing that tomorrow for July, and I co-present with a dentist, and we discuss all the aspects of autism as it relates to the dental setting, sensory processing, medication, side effects, how to interact, communicate, the modes of communication one person might expect to see, all the things that a dental professional might encounter when they're trying to work with a person with autism. So yeah, I kind of managed to merge those two things together. It kind of merged naturally and continues that way. So I'm enjoying that. The next question. These are excellent, by the way, and I apologize if I'm talking fast, but I tend to do that. So the next question is, did writing the book help you heal or make peace with this story? How does it feel to put your private experiences into a book for the world to read? Yeah, writing the book actually did help me heal. I needed to kind of put it all down on paper and process it, because I don't really think I understood the magnitude of what we did. And sometimes you forget. I mean, it was so much so fast, and having it written down is actually something back for me to look back upon, since I'm constantly plowing forward on what's next, and appreciate and be grateful for how far Ben has come and the experiences I was allowed to go through with him. It definitely helped me grow as a person. I think it was beneficial for Ben. He appreciates the book, which I wasn't sure about that necessarily, but he does. He actually appreciates it, and helps him relate to his students better at this time. Putting private experiences out there for the world to read was the other part of the question. I don't really have a difficulty with that. I'm not a super private person when it comes to things that impact a large number of people. And as you know, the incidence and prevalence of autism has increased dramatically, and most people have had some type of interaction with a person on the spectrum, be it in their own family or dealing with patients, neighbors, friends, family. And so the most common comment that I've had from people who have read the book who also have a child with autism is that they felt like they were reading their own thoughts. And so that's been very powerful, and I think writing the book has been very affirming to me. Affirming in the fact that I did everything I could, affirming in the fact that I don't realize how difficult it was at the time, and then to hear other people tell me, wow, that's a huge accomplishment, does make you feel like you did the right thing, and appreciate, again, like I said, how far things have come. So I'm very grateful. It was just this past week, I was at work, and Ben was sitting in the car. He'd come from his work, and he texted, and he said, I'm here to pick you up, just waiting in the car. And a lot of times he just comes in the office and comes in the front door, and the staff love to see him. We've got a baby grand piano in our lobby and a vaulted ceiling, so he likes to come in and play the piano and get some a little attention, and somebody gives him a treat, and everybody likes to talk to him, so he likes coming in and visiting. But I remember thinking, I don't think I would have ever believed that I would be carpooling to work with Ben and he would be the one driving. During the days that you see in the book, I definitely never thought that would happen. So I have a lot of those moments where it's like, oh, I need to pinch myself. Is this really happening? I can't believe this is happening. And I've had lots of those moments, graduating from high school, going to college, graduating college, all of these milestones that, I was led to believe weren't going to happen. So, yeah, it has been a very good trip, and I hope it continues to be for him. It's definitely, I'll always be grateful for the opportunity, because it was a huge growth period in our lives as a family, but especially for him, he's far exceeded what I expected, and continues to do so. I think the only thing, I'm going to jump back a little bit, Somebody asked, what are the challenges does he have been experienced today? I would say that he definitely experiences telling people about himself when he's in an interview. I mean, he already has published research from his undergrad. He already has participated in that. As a 16-year-old, he had published research. He's done so many things, and he doesn't know how. He doesn't understand that that's a huge deal. You know, you're a National Merit Scholar. Yeah, it's a big deal. Employers might think that. Remember to put that on your resume. Please put that on your resume. So that's a definitely a challenge that I forgot whenever I first answered that question. He is not a good self advocate. So we're starting to get better. In the current job that he has, I asked him about the benefits, and he was like, "Well, I don't know." I'm like, "Well, you should find that out." And during the interview, so while he's looking in Atlanta, I noticed that he did ask those questions appropriately and get answers that he needed. So self advocacy. So sorry to go backwards, but that just popped in my head, and I think it's very important. He doesn't realize how extraordinary he is. He truly does not. He truly does not. He realizes how much happened, but he doesn't realize how different that is from the normal, whatever normal is, process of growing up. He doesn't realize that for sure. The next question is, did Julie and her husband have more children later or decide to focus their attention on Ben? We didn't have more children. It was more because of our age. I was only 30, but my husband was 42 when Ben came along. So, just having more kids, and we already had two older children. So Ben was the last. So yeah, we focused our attention on Ben. I think had I been younger, or we'd been younger, we probably would have had more kids. The next question is, tell us about your other children. What careers did they pursue? Are they parents or are you grandparents? My older two children, my older son, it's not in the book because he wasn't ready for it to be disclosed, but Dylan also is on the spectrum. He was diagnosed after Ben. He was diagnosed with level 1 autism. He still has some challenges with that, mostly interpersonal, but he works as a foreign car mechanic, and he does have some social challenges that are more serious, I would say, than Ben, because he got that diagnosis much later, got intervention much later, and really isn't very accepting of that aspect of himself. So that's a whole nother can of worms that I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, trying to help Dylan, and Dylan's 35. So it's definitely challenging for him. He's a very hard worker. He's a good worker. He is as intelligent as Ben, but in different ways. So yeah, that's been different. And then my daughter, she had been working as an animal trainer for the last 10 years or so. It's interesting. She used applied behavior analysis to do that. But she has now transitioned into social work, where she is helping people with disabilities and the elderly access services in their community. And she's living in Cincinnati now. So I'm very proud of her. And she does credit all of her skills back to her time working with Ben, and not just Ben, but I have two brothers that have disabilities as well. So she's had a lot of experience in that realm, and is excelled in working in that space. The next question, does Julie ever think about writing a follow-up book to focus on Ben's life as an adult living with autism? Absolutely, all the time. I get asked that a lot, and I would love to do that. It's just a matter of finding the time to do that. And I look at it and I wonder, well, how did I have time back then? I'm not really sure how I got a lot of things done. Like you guys, I'm sure, are feeling, here in the middle of your summer seminar, like, how am I getting all this done? Yeah, I have that feeling a lot, especially when I was in hygiene school, because I already had Dylan and Sarah when I was in hygiene school, and so somehow I was raising them and doing homework at 1 o'clock in the morning and getting up and doing it all over again. I don't remember it. Don't know how I got through it. So I know you guys are probably feeling similarly. The next question is, looking back, if you had the knowledge you have now, would you have approached things differently? That kind of ties back to the options available today. I don't know. I mean, it would have been easier to start, but I think the way we approached it was the best way to approach it at that time, if that is helpful to you. Um, the resources weren't there. I think the only thing that could have been there that to make it different would have been having more financial resources and more professional resources, and those still aren't there. So, looking back, if I had the knowledge of what was coming down the road, I probably would have relocated to somewhere that had more supports for me as a parent to be able to deliver the intervention to Ben, parent my other children, be a wife, and work. That's a lot to do. And I do think it did contribute to a lot of the health issues I've had in the last 20, 30 years, as far as just exhaustion and fatigue and all of that. So yeah, I think if I had access to more financial and support staff, I would have gravitated toward that, knowing what I know now. Let's see. And the very last question is: was there any specific message or emotion that you wanted us, the readers, to walk away with after finishing this book? Absolutely. The message I wanted to send, because I hadn't seen any other books like mine at that time, was that even if you don't have the financial resources, even if you don't have the personnel resources, you have the ability to make an impact on your child's life if you have a child with autism and you live in an area that is essentially a resource desert. And I wanted to empower all the thousands of parents who live in those types of spaces all across the world. I've had interactions with people from other countries who are asking, how can I replicate what you've done for your child in my space, because we don't have the same things you didn't have. And so that was the message that I wanted. And my publisher asked me that when I wrote the book. He says, what are you wanting from writing this book? Are you wanting some recognition? Are you wanting to make money? What do you want? I said, no, I just want to help. If I can help one family go from where Ben started to where he is now, I will have accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And I have seen that. And I still continue to get invitations to high school graduations, college graduations from young people that I have worked with and their parents. And so that is what I wanted from the book. And so I guess the emotion would be hope. That if that's an emotion, hope is an emotion, I guess, would be what I wanted the readers to walk away with. And for you all who have read the book, I continue to be just completely dumbfounded that all of you are using my book as a textbook to help you get through your summer seminar on learning about special needs. And just like our course that I'm doing on ACEs tomorrow, it's an ever growing population. It's a group of patients that we're going to encounter in practice. And so learning about that, which I did not know that was the direction the book would go, that it would ever be used in that way. So that brings me a lot of joy, seeing the book used not just by parents and grandparents of children with autism, but seeing professionals use the book and glean something from it that they can take back to their clinical settings and be more successful. And so that makes me very, very happy. And I hope that I can write another book. And I'll have to carve out the time. And I wish I could interact with you all in person, but I know that it's easier to send you a video so that it can be used at a time that's most convenient. So anytime that I need to do this again, Miss Karen, let me know, and I will be happy to record another one for you and give you an update on what's going on. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your summer seminar, and I look forward to interacting with you again. And again, if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Some of you have already found me on Instagram. Not very exciting. I can see, once you hit 50, you become interested in plants and cats. And so I have those too. So I'm feeling my age for sure. But yeah, please, I love seeing your all's milestones, seeing you graduate and seeing you get through your program and become hygienists and work with special populations. I'm proud of all of you and for your interest in what we do, what I'm doing, and what Ben's doing. So very grateful for you guys. Good luck.